All right, welcome everybody. Really happy that you could come out today for our STEM internship panel. Looks like I see a lot of friendly faces in here. My name is Cassidy Miller. I'm the STEM counselor for the PASO program. So if you don't know, that stands for Promoting Awareness of STEM Opportunities. So that's what we hope to do here today, is share with you from your fellow LA Valley College students, what are some of the internships that they've completed during their time here, how did they go about that, and what their experiences were like. So with that being said, we'll just start with our panelists, and if you want to, either David, Sandy, start first and share a little bit with us about, your major, what you're studying here, maybe what you plan to do eventually, and then also what internship or internships, I know some of you guys have done multiple, that you completed.
Okay, ladies first, I guess. Hi, my name is Sandra Iescas, Sandy for short, I prefer it. I completed the NIH Build for Ed research program, well, not the whole program. I am actually a case study. Build for Ed is funded by the NIH, and it's run by CSUN. Build for Ed stands for Building Infrastructure Leading to Diversity, Promoting Opportunities for Diversity in Education. So I am actually going to be a statistic. They are going to follow me for 10 years and being provided with resources to help me get through school. My ultimate goal is a PhD in neurobiology. I want to do research in the neurobiology field. So they will be following me for the next 10 years to see if it makes a difference being provided the resources in order to be a successful student and have a successful career in what I'm choosing to do. So I hope that I don't let anybody down. No pressure.
Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Pacheco. So I'm also a Build for Ed trainee. So I'm doing research here at Los Angeles Valley College, and I've been here for about 3 years, and I'm majoring in biology. And I also did SHPEP, which stands for the Summer Health Professional Education Program. So this is more based on people that are interested in pre-med, pre-dental, pre-nursing, pre-physical assistant. And so it's a 6-week program where you're going to be able to, get a lot of resources, get a lot of networking with a lot of doctors and with a lot of nurses. I did this program because I was really interested in medical and stuff, but after doing Build for Ed, I really love research and I want to continue on to that with my education. But I'm happy to answer any questions regarding either one.
Hi, I'm Buddy. I did the NCAS sort of internship, and basically it was like half of it was an online module. You're learning about the programs that NASA has and aerospace technology and robotics, and then went into some other things after that, the on-site experience where you actually form a team. I was Team Gold, so here I am. And you sort of just learn how NASA teamwork is. They give you kind of missions as far as programming a rover and what you have to do with it, so that was really cool. And then they just called me back to come back as a student advisor in a few weeks. So I get to go do the experience again, but in a different capacity, so that's really cool. I'm majoring in computer science and engineering. My ultimate goal is to build robots to explore the solar system. So this was a perfect internship for me, and I should be transferring hopefully to UCLA next year. I've got my application in, so we'll see how that goes.
Hi, my name is Alejandra Baron. I'm a full-time student at Valley. My major is biology, but I found out through my summer research internship through Mission College where I took a class. And after I applied, I got placed into CSUN where I did internship in ecology, herpetology. I didn't really know what I was going to internship as. They kind of placed me into it, but after being in the lab, being in ecology and herpetology, I really loved it. I got to experience a lot of new things. I got to connect with a lot of professors through CSUN, and I met a lot of graduate students that are very helpful and provide a lot of mentoring and tips through research.
Hello, my name is Ted. Ted Liera, and I completed the UC Berkeley Transfer to Excellence RU program. So David, or Harun, and I actually went the same year or summer together. So in my research, I actually got into Professor Dowda's lab. If you have heard of CRISPR before, or a revolutionizing tool, I got into lab and it was pretty amazing, just because you could see a lot of things going on in the research and what they're doing about CRISPR. And it's an incredible experience just because you have to get to mingle with postdocs, graduate students, undergraduate students, and especially your PI. Yeah, I just saw her over there multiple times, but she wasn't there for a good month because she was traveling all over the world to tell her about what CRISPR is and how CRISPR could be revolutionizing medicine anytime soon. So yeah, I'm majoring in biology, and it's my 5th year in college actually. And I got this internship through the STEM website where I was in Twitter, and I just decided like, oh, this is interesting. So I just give it a go, and I got in. Yeah.
Hi everyone, as Ted said, my name is David. I usually go by David. I also sometimes go by Harut, but David is fine. I'm a computer science major here at Valley. I've been here for about a year and a half. So this summer, I had the opportunity to work at UC Berkeley as a computer science intern. I worked on actual software development. It was a very challenging experience, but it was also very rewarding in multiple senses. I got a lot of actual professional experience. I learned a lot of stuff about computer science that I didn't know, and I got to learn how important documentation is, or I guess the lack of documentation. Yeah, it was a very good experience. I actually work here as a tutor as well on campus, so if any of you guys want any advice on anything computer science related, even outside of computer science, feel free to drop by. I'll be more than happy to help you guys.
You're kind of just hoping that you fall into an internship that's, you know, easygoing and it's going to be fun, and since it's going along with your major, it shouldn't be too hard. But you're introduced to a lot of new things that you didn't know before. Perhaps you did know them, but you hadn't perfected them. And so it's very draining. You're being trained for something that has to be done a specific way, or even just completing certain modules that we had to complete. So it was very tiring. It was very mentally tiring. So throughout the summer, it was 4 weeks, a complete 4 weeks, and we were really surprised at how exhausting it was, because we would get back to the dorms and we were exhausted. We just wanted to go to sleep, and it's like 6 o'clock. We're like, what's going on? But it's really surprising at how much community building there is. And that is something that really surprised me as well, as how supportive everyone was, not just among the students, but among the advisors that you meet and the mentors that you meet. I feel like you walk in hoping that you get some guidance and you get some support, but you end up leaving with a very huge network of people who just want to help you succeed. And so that was one thing that I wasn't really expecting to receive, and I feel overwhelmed with the support that I received. So it's to this day, it's continuous. So it's something that I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, I can agree to that, and I also feel like it's really interesting when you get to see other people that are interested in the same goals as you. Like when I did Chapep, there's so many people that want to do doctors, they want to do nurses, but just like how their passion is, and it just, you really like learn to grow from other students. And I really felt that also with Built for There. Like when we did the summer bridge, when we did the summer program, you just learn about like different diversities, you learn about different cultures, and it's just really fascinating because sometimes you don't really feel like you learn about that in a biomedical research program. So I thought that was really something I didn't expect to learn there.
I expected to do this on-site experience and learn about programming and building robots and doing all of that, and it was almost not even that at all. Even though that's kind of what you were on there to do, more what I learned was that no matter what your task is, you're probably not going to be successful with the mission that you have, because the environment that you're building and testing in is completely different than what's over there. So you realize that you need all these redundant programs, and you only have a set of tools to use and a limited budget to work with. So you have to find a way to make whatever you have work to accomplish your mission, and you have a whole team of people who have really never done anything like this at all, and you're just trying to brainstorm and figure out, well, how can we make this work? And on top of that, you basically form your own companies. So kind of the experience was you're creating your own company, and you're trying to win a NASA bid to actually buy your product. So there's branding, there's graphic design development, there's all kinds of stuff involved with that. And then the days were really long. So wake up at like maybe 5:45, you have to be on the bus at 6:30. And then we go from the hotel to the actual research center. You're there until at least 6 o'clock at night, if not 7 or 8. And then you're back to the hotel, and then you still have about 3 hours of work with your group to figure out how you're going to last minute make this thing work for the test the next day. So it was long days, not a lot of sleep, but when it was all done, you get to know these people really good. I still talk to a lot of them. I hope to see at least one of them in a few weeks, because I don't know who the other person was that was selected to be the student advisor, but it was a really fun time, and yeah, you get a lot out of it.
I agree. I feel like when I went into my internship, I wasn't prepared at all because I did not know what herpetology was, which is the study of reptiles, and I've never had a reptile ever before in my life. So I didn't know how to care for one, I didn't know how to study for one, but when I got into it, the professor was very understanding. He explained to me that a lot of what I'm going to be learning in the summer internship was hands-on experience, so that's what I did. Through coming every day, I would have to, working long hours every day, I would little by little learn how to care for these animals, study how their behaviors are, and read countless articles about the studies that it took to why I'm studying this like research field. So my research field was with widows, brown widows and black widows in Southern California. So I did not know anything about that, but after reading articles, after asking a bunch of questions, I was able to become familiar with it and actually test my experiments out. It was very difficult because I had to present a paper and presentation, so it took a lot of work, but overall it was very rewarding, and I gained a lot from that.
Right. Same actually, but when I was researching about my project, I looked into the website of Professor Donna's lab and reading all the things that they've done. Absolutely, I couldn't decipher what they're saying at all. So I wasn't prepared. I mean, I get the chance to do a biophoric class before, and my friend Veronica is actually, and we did it together. And that specific class had the advantage of me, like, oh, I know these procedures when I get into the lab already. But I have to also account the endless of research paper articles I have to read, and it's very dense. You would definitely, I mean, it's, I guess, different from each people, but when you read a research paper, it could be really tiring at the same time, really, you couldn't understand at all. But with help your mentor or with your friends, you would be able to understand it. And when we first get together, actually, I feel intimidated. I feel the, what you call that?
Anxiety?
That one too, but I remember, yeah. And imposter syndrome. It's like, I don't belong here. Like, why did they choose me? These people are great, but what am I? But as it turns out, I just use that disadvantage to advantage. It's like, you know what? Everybody don't know everything. If you ask somebody else a specific field, they won't know it. And I feel, yeah, just enjoy the whole experience, and also get the chance to be in the lab for almost every day from Monday to Sunday, just because of the procedures that I have to do of endless purification of E. coli, and have to, you know, purify the proteins from the E. coli. It takes up so much hours, and yeah, I get to come up to the lab from 9 a.m. until to like 7 or 8 or even at 10. But it was fun. because after that long day, you will get the chance to see your friends again, like Harut, because we live in the same dorm together, and the food was amazing, the building was amazing.
That's what I miss the most.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't get the chance to lose some weight because it was buffet every day. So it was fun, and the one that I get most out of it is, I guess, the sense of community as well. Community building, and then you get the chance to explore and gain knowledge from your research, and you would definitely have the confidence to tell you what research you've done, and that's amazing. You know, starting from nothing, you get this big, and I guess that reflects on life, because you started from nothing, you started from scratch, and then as you go into steps or as you go into your building blocks, you're gonna get on the top and have this achievement. So I'm very grateful for that experience and get to meet huge people, especially my PI, and it's mesmerizing. And yeah, it's one of the greatest life-changing experience I've ever had.
Of what I would get in return, I want to pick up on what Sandy was saying actually about the people. And because I was expecting to go to this internship and to just be in everything in software. So just software from dawn till dusk, you know, everything, just in the lab working on software. But in all honesty, the most benefit I got was in terms of what I talked with people and learned from them. And not instead what I got from actual software development. I mean, compared to what I got from people, that would be like peanuts, honestly. There's no other way to put it. Because during this internship, I was able to meet so many amazing people, even my own cohort members, even like Ted over here, and we had other members in our cohort that had made like AI programs that like learned how you played and defeated you, and just talking with them and interacting with them like just on the day-to-day activities. I learned so much information just about computer science and the transfer process and just studying in general and overall career expectations and like what path to take and how to take them, how to get there, how to overcome obstacles. It was just an amazing experience, and I got a lot of experience from that, a lot of good knowledge from that. And another thing that Ted brought up was the difficulty and how everything was, I have no idea what this is, and the unfamiliarity with it. Because honestly, for me, the difficulty was kind of parabolic. It started, before I went there, I was expecting it to be like super hard, like I don't know what I'm going to do. But when I got there, and they introduced the project and said, oh, this is, you have to do this, and I talked with my mentor and all that, I was like, oh, you know, this is not too hard, you know, I think I can do this. Then they gave me the research papers and the documentation, or I guess the lack of documentations, and I was like, wait a minute, this is kind of hard. And yeah, and it was quite an uphill battle. There were a lot of obstacles, and the thing with our internship specifically was because it was a research experience, and it was more just on you. You have to take care of it and just figure everything out. It was pretty intense. But one of the experiences that I'll never forget is one day I was working on my project and I couldn't get it to work. I've been working on it for like, I think 3 days. I was stuck on this one problem. I couldn't fix it. So I went to my mentor and said, hey, you know, there's this thing. I just can't figure it out. It's taking up way too much time. Can you help me with it? He's like, yeah, for sure. Like he was a good mentor. He came up and he's like, and he looked at my code. He's like, oh, I know what you did wrong. And he like made a few changes, like minor stuff. He's like, okay, it'll work now. He runs it. And it doesn't work. He's like, oh, okay, it's another small thing. So he goes, change some more stuff. Again, it doesn't work. So he does this for the whole day. And he couldn't figure out what was wrong with my code. So what that really helped me was, because this was actually during the 4th or 3rd week of the internship, it really helped me understand how no one knows what they're doing. So it was very, very humbling. It was a very humbling experience. And it also made me feel a lot more confident in what I was doing. You know, it's not just me that's fumbling around, it's everyone else. So.
Where there's a will, there's a way. I really mean that. I struggle with it every semester for the last. So a little bit of a further background on me is I call myself a 7-year sophomore because I've been here for 7 years. It's a long, long time. But one of the things that I've learned is you really have to take the time to figure out your pace. It is going to be difficult when you're a STEM student. You have to prepare yourself for the heavy classwork that you're going to have when you move on to the university. But you can also build your way up. Don't feel like I feel like every student that I talk to, I'm also a mentor here right next door, pastoral mentor, and I feel like every student is in a rush. Just they want to rush for that 2 years, they want to meet that 2 years, and realistically when you're a STEM student, those 2 years turn into 3. And your 2 years at the university turn into 3. And that's just because we have these classes that are incremental, right? You can't move on to Physics 38 until you do 37. You can't take Calculus 3 until you take Calc 1 and 2. So you have to take that into consideration and try not to beat yourself up because you can burn yourself out. That's one of the things that I try my best to not do, but for some reason I keep putting myself in these situations. But for me, like where there's a will, there's a way. You have to make time, and it really comes down to how bad you want it, realistically, because we can all say that we don't have time, but I work a lot of hours, I'm a single parent, and I go to school full time. And I feel like if I can figure it out, a lot of other people can figure it out, and it's just really how bad you want it. You're going to have long nights, you're going to have early days, but it just comes down to how bad you want it. And if it's something you really want to do, then nothing's going to stop you. For me, it's really just that simple. But it is a lot of work, and it is very stressful. So try to find the nice medium of stressful and, succeeding so that you don't feel too horrible about missing out. A lot of people have that problem where they feel that they're missing out. But you're working for yourself. This is for yourself and for your future. So you're not really missing out on anything. You're just building towards your future.
I definitely agree, and I think also it's really good to organize yourself. I can't stress that enough. I used to kind of just oh, I have an exam, I'll just, I know when I'm going to study and stuff, but now, I have a thing, okay, I'm going to study at this time, I'm going to be working my lab at this time, I'm going to be doing this, because that really, it's like that, we see, oh, I have so much time because I have an exam in 2 weeks or something, but in reality, you can be studying at that time and then working at your lab, and that time. So I think that is my biggest thing, is that just keeping yourself as organized as possible so you don't make any errors in, oh my gosh, I only have an hour to work in my lab, but I have to do all this, I'm not going to have enough time and stuff. So it's really just, that is what kept me going and what keeps me just trying to do my best for my school and also for my lab.
Yeah, like Jessica said, the calendar has been my best friend because I can't keep all that in my head. And sometimes you have dates that are months in advance. November 21st, there's a STEM panel. December 8th, there's something. And I can't keep that in my head, so I have to write all this stuff down. And then I notice that my whole calendar gets completely filled up. And it's like, well, when am I going to, just sit down for a minute and eat some lunch or something? So it gets really taxing. So what I finally started doing this semester was when I actually see a window in the week, usually Thursday is my somewhat free day, and I'll say, okay, I'm not going to do anything this day. I'm just going to sit here and let my brain reset itself, because when I didn't do that, my brain would just start to overload, and I would find that even though I was working 12 hours straight doing stuff, it was 12 hours of ineffective work. It was really, I got 3 or 4 hours of work done, because my brain was at a certain percentage. But if I took that day to rest, and then the next day I actually came back, by 10 in the morning I had gotten done what normally would be 6 in the evening. I was like, wow, I'm already done. Okay, now what can I do? What can I get ahead on for the next one? And then just really plotting in times to learn the material. I started tutoring this semester, and that's actually helped me with studying for my own classes I'm currently in, because now I learn the material and watch the videos as if I'm going to teach it to somebody else already, and that helps me actually understand it a lot faster and more strongly. When I did this internship last fall, it required maybe 2 or 3 hours of online time. There was stuff videos I had to watch, quizzes I had to answer, and then a research project I had to do. So usually I would just pick that one day right after the exam, where, okay, I don't have another test for 2 weeks, so let me take this afternoon to do the week's worth of work for this particular thing. And I would just find places to kind of put it in and play the little sliding tile puzzle with my calendar.
Yeah, my classes, as well as in class in-class classes during the summer as well as working during the weekends. So it's very hard juggling multiple things at one time. But like Sandra said, if there's a will, there's a way. If you want to do it, you'll do it. You shouldn't really say no to opportunities like this because they gain more value than the class you would need to take for that summer. So definitely if you get offered an internship, do it. Even though you have to juggle multiple things at one time, it's possible. You just have to get up early and go home late, but it's very rewarding.
Well, thank you for that. Well, when we did our internship, actually, we're not supposed to take any classes. We have to focus on the internship itself. But the process when I was applying for this internship, it was probably the spring, around March. Yeah, and you got to be on top of things, especially your classes, and asking for recommendation letters and finishing off your essays, and then submitted it, not the last minute. But I think Carol and I we submitted like a week before the deadline is, which is not good. Should always be probably 2 weeks from the deadline, but it happens, you know. Just because you couldn't do everything at once and you cannot split yourself into two, like mitosis or meiosis, but yeah, you just have to keep things on track. Get things done first, the ones that you're supposed to be doing, especially your classes. And then once you finish that, do your application and always update your professor because sometimes they forget to, and you don't want to miss that rec letter because it's really important. It could get you not be selected to the internship. So ask them like how's the recommendation letter, and make sure that your recommender will be the person who knows you, like you get interact with all the time, and have seen you work, have seen you struggle at the same time. So yeah, that's one of the things that I've done last semester, and actually now I'm volunteering at Jessica and Sandy's internship here. You just gotta balance out everything, see how much time you should be doing, and see how would your day would go to that day or every week. And yeah, it's grab any opportunities or internship that you could find, because apply for like 10 or 5, because probably 3 or 2 or 1 of them could select you or none. That happened to me, so yeah. Yeah, that's what I did.
So I think it's a pretty tricky question in terms of how to find time to apply to internship, because as most of us already said, obviously you guys have to be on top of your classes, family responsibilities, personal job. It's a whole bunch of stuff they have to learn how to juggle. But in terms of internship, for community college students, it's a bit more difficult, because if you're already at a 4-year, even if in one class you get a B instead of an A or a C instead of a B, it's not the end of the world. But for community college students, it's a bit more important because you still need the grades to transfer. So that's why I think it definitely shouldn't be at the cost of your classes. But at the same time, as Sandy said, if there's a will, there's a way. I believe that if you guys really want internships, go to sleep an hour late. If you have to go to bed at, let's say, 11, go to bed at 12. It's not the best advice. It's not, for most of you, I'm guessing it's probably not going to be very useful advice. But other than really dedicating yourself and just finding time anywhere throughout your day to look for internships, to apply to them, to write up your essays, to go around asking professors for recommendation letters, asking how you can help them to make sure that they actually, write and actually finish it in time, I think is something you guys should definitely try to allocate time for.
A lot of times for me, it was like people, like other students, they'll like tell you like, hey, I did this program, I think you should do it, this seems like it interests you. Or sometimes you look online, like if you go to like NIH RU, that's like a really good place that shows like all the website that shows like all the schools and all the like majors and the specific requirements to like apply for that program. So that was like the type of resources that
I actually learned about this internship at last year's first STEM speaker series. Over there, it's just, you know how they have the clubs, have the tables around Monarch Hall and everything, and there was one guy sitting there with some NASA, like a NASA lanyard and some NCAS stuff. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, it's a really cool thing. The application's due in 2 weeks. Like, oh no, wait, let me look at this. So I went on and I looked at it and I filled it all out, and that's how I got into it. But I would have never heard of it had I not come to an event like this where I learned about such opportunities.
Just a shout out, the NCAS is due.
It is due, I think, October 16th. And you have to get letters of recommendation, but the professors, I believe, have another week after the 16th to get their letters in. And they're going to submit it directly online. So.
And the email that you got from the Blackboard announcement has the link to the application process. So if you just watch out for my emails, I announce all the ones that come into my.
And they do this twice a year, so
Yes.
if you feel too rushed and you can't get in now, you can do the online portion in the spring, and then at the end of the summer or in the fall is when you'll be eligible for the on-site experience.
So yeah, I found out multiple internships through the RE website. I applied to about 3 of them. I got rejected from all of them, and then right when the spring semester was about to be over, someone told, I found out through my community college that there's a summer in research opportunity. And I'm like, okay, cool, great, I'll do it. Oh, it's due in 3 days. So yeah, it's due in 3 days. So I had to ask my professors, email them, and write my essay really like in a short amount of time. And luckily I got in. You just really have to have communication with your professors, be willing to give you that letter of rec, and also just go through websites through your community college, websites through Google or anything. Just look up summer research opportunities.
Well, for me, actually, I was on Twitter, and then just scrolling down, and I see LAVC STEM tweeted like, oh, there's a TTRE program that is due on someday. I forget about it. But yeah, I applied, and then I asked Professor Shin, I said, hi Professor Shin, like, what is about the TTRU? And it's like, oh, you just go onto the website and see what are the eligibility for. So I just read them through, and then applied for it. And I applied for 3 last spring, actually 2, and 2 of them rejected me. And then Berkeley, actually, it's like, the hell, Berkeley? Like me. But for the other 2, yeah, it just happens that I see this kind of way that if an opportunity closes, another person will be able to get that. Like a door will be open to them. And then that's for me. When I got into Berkeley, probably some people who got rejected to that, but an opportunity for me opened. So it's a matter of, you know, it's not out of the world if you get rejected or even accepted. It's a matter of like, you have to do the things that you have to do and see just how it goes. And yeah, I mean, I also went to the website for multiple REU experiences. I think the AAMC has one as well, and the NIH REU actually. Most of the internships are actually it's either NSF or NIH that's being funded. So if you go into their website, there's a bunch of internship like all over the country or even abroad. So if you just look into that and definitely look at the eligibility and then the application when it's due. So yeah, get on top of it. I think now in this time of the timeline of where if you want internship from this date, from October, because the end usually on April or March, January,
Yeah.
something around those 3 months. So see how the internships are, and definitely contact your professors already right now and ask them a recommendation letter, and your essays, and if you're transferring, if you have made a essay already, you could copy paste it, but make sure it's great and it answers the question. Do not answer the question or copy paste. Copy paste your application essay if it doesn't answer the question on the first one. So, or in the application for internship. So make sure you answer definitely the question because that's really important.
You want to answer the question.
Exactly. Always answer the question. And I've heard, Jessica and I was in the lab actually last night, because I think I got rejected because I didn't get to ask the question to the interview. I wasn't interested probably. They thought, oh, this guy doesn't really want it because he doesn't ask questions at the end of the interview. So always ask a question at the end so that they will see, okay, this person really is committed to do the internship or to learn from it. So definitely ask question and answer the question.
So something that I'm very surprised, even especially after this question, a lot of people don't seem to know about the NSF website, NSF RU, if you guys just Google that. It is an amazing website that I also didn't know about. I found out about it actually after my internship. It has, at least for computer science, which is the only one I checked, it has over 100 internships just for computer science. And you even have, well, since there's over 100, you have the opportunity to be picky about it too, seeing which one is exactly what you want to do. It's in your field. It has the kind of stuff that you're interested in. It's somewhere that you want to go. It's not too hot, too cold, whatever. So it's a very good website. NSFRU, you guys can look that up. But in general, finding internships, there's a lot of ways to go about it. Everyone here already mentioned a lot of good stuff. So, through people that you know, through Google, through different websites and all that fun stuff. Specifically for me, I found this internship, as Ted mentioned, a week and a half before the deadline. And it was through someone I was talking to. We were talking about something totally different. And she said, oh, there's this thing that I did last summer. I'm like, oh, that's great. Can I do it? She's like, yeah, it's due in a week. I'm like, okay, great. Time to panic. But yeah, there's a lot of different avenues to find them. But it also depends a lot on your majors. So if you guys are computer science majors, you can also try finding referrals. So if you know someone who's done an internship before, especially if they're an industry internship, what they can do is they can provide you a referral, which means you can actually skip the first part of the interviewing process and just jump into actual coding interviews or maybe even just talking to a hiring manager. So yeah, networking I'd say is one of the best ways to find it.
That's true.
Oh, and one more thing, conferences and career fairs. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I went to, snuck in kind of, into CSUN's career fair. And it was very good because at career fairs, you actually get to talk to interviewers and actual hiring managers, because when you apply online, even though online you can find a lot more internship opportunities, as I mentioned, the NSF has over 100. But the problem with them is that some of them kind of tend to automate the process. Especially those that get a lot of applications, they might not even read your application. It'll just go through the filter. Does it have the keywords that we want? No? Okay, into the pile it goes. So going to career fairs and actually talking to interviewers where they can actually see your resume, see you in person, and you can talk to them about it and tell them all your experiences and stuff, I think that really goes a long way. And there's actually one on the 24th that I recommend you guys go. If you guys look up Hello Future, I think it's called, the Hello Future the career fair, it's very good. I plan on going, so yeah, I recommend that. So for computer science, generally on your resume, you want to have the stuff that's relevant. So if the work that you did does have something to do with your computer science, then yeah, for sure, definitely do have that on your CV. Also, what I'd recommend for career fairs is something that's actually very, very useful, is looking up the companies that are going to be there ahead of time, going into their offerings or the opportunities that they have, and seeing what they actually want in your in the applicants. So actually, one of the more successful ones that I had was with this company called Arrivarid. I'm not sure what it was called, but it was a company that specialized in making unmanned aircraft. And it was also specifically used for some kind of medical technology. So on their website, they said they wanted someone who had done, who was very familiar with physics, so they've completed the physics series. Someone who had almost finished, or at least had done most of their mathematics, was familiar with microcontrollers, and had experience with medical imaging software. So I went to the recruiter, and since I knew all this beforehand, and I just happened to have everything that they wanted, I went up to them and I didn't even let them talk. I said, hey, I introduced myself and I said, hey, you guys want this, right? They're like, yeah. I said, hey, great, look at my transcript, I've done all that. You want someone who's done microprocessors? Cool, I have this project, work with microprocessors. I said, you want someone who's familiar with medical imaging? They said, yeah. I said, yeah, boom, I did this last summer. And immediately this person was, okay, let me get my hiring manager. And they went and they brought the manager. The manager talked to me a bit more, they got my number, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to that interview. So definitely, it's very useful to look up, because they also see that you're very motivated. If you go out of your way and actually find what they want, and you present it to them in a way that they have to do the least amount of effort to hire you, it's very successful, I'd say. So computer science, the thing I like most about computer science is that you can get into it just on your own without anything. So for people who are in, like, for example, biomedicine, or just like, if someone wants to become a surgeon, right? They can't find a person on the street and just like perform heart surgery and go to a hospital and say, hey, I cured this person. But for computer science, you actually can basically do that. You can go, on Google or something like that, you can just Google stuff, like C++ projects, examples, and you can find like a bunch of stuff like people have already made, and just basically just start working on that if you don't have an idea on your own. But I think the best way to work on them is to just think of stuff that you want to make on your own. So for example, one of the first projects I made was, well, later on it turned out to be kind of a stupid project, but one of the first projects I made was my computer had a very bad battery life. Like, it would go to like 27%, it would just turn off. So I was like, okay, let me make some kind of program that'll check the percentage of the computer and let me know when it's at 30%, and it gives me a warning so I can actually plug in the power cord. So I wrote it in Python and I set it up on a computer, and it worked like a charm. And it was a very good experience, because through that project I was able to get into a language that I was not very familiar with. And by getting into it, actually, I learned a lot more stuff by, okay, how do I get it to actually access my computer software, and like my computer's actual information, like the battery life. How do I get it to automatically start out so I don't have to double tap it? How do I get it to not stop working when I turn it off, or whenever, like, how do I get the CPU to stop ignoring it and like actually run it like constantly instead of like idling it? So try to find something in your life that you'd like to improve, that software can actually help, and work on it. But if you can't, like, sometimes, I also have trouble like thinking of, what should I make? It's kind of like, what should I make today at home, like for food? It's kind of like that. Sometimes you just don't know what to make. So Googling really helps. Just Google like the language that you want to work with. Maybe like if you want to work on specific things, like you want to make a website, Google like website ideas. You want to make something with hardware, Google like hardware ideas with like microcontrollers. I find them very interesting myself too. So I'd say Googling personal stuff, and also ask around. It also can help. Like, ask people, what are you working on? Maybe you can join them. Have like a collaborative effort.
You get to meet people that are at your level, education-wise, and that's a marvelous thing, because you're going through that struggle together. We're all kind of doing the same thing, struggling in the same way, because we're taking kind of the same classes. And the great thing about that is when you are in a group, like Build Ed is a cohort. There are 5 cohorts. We're the 5th cohort, so there's 4 cohorts before us. And it's like one big family. Obviously, you're going to be, well, I personally feel closer to my cohort, but meeting all of these people that are going into so many different fields, psychology, engineering, there's many biology, some are going ecology, bioinformatics. There's so many different fields, because we kind of get to choose what our field of research is going to be. Obviously, we have to find the right mentor for that, but we have so many people going into so many different fields, and you're going to eventually collaborate with one of them. And that's the greatest thing ever. And there's students that I work with now that I'm like, hey man, we're going to do something. We're going to build something. Or you have these ideas and you get to bounce them off of each other. And we call it nerding out. We just start talking in a language that no one else really gets, but you start talking and you start coming up with ideas, and eventually you are going to run into that one thing that could possibly be your baby in a way. You know what I mean? Like, that you get to see from the ground up. And another part of a huge networking is your professors. I learned about NIH through my professor, and for some reason, a lot of students maybe don't realize it yet, but getting to know your professors is very, very beneficial, not just in getting to know them because of letters of recommendation, right? It's not just a one-way street, but getting to know how they got to where they are. They've been through many paths, and I'm sure some failures and whatnot, and not having to repeat those same failures is a huge thing. So, and that also goes the same thing with the people that you get to know in your own network, because if they have already done something that has failed, you can either figure out a way to not fail in that same way, but maybe you can figure out a way to fix that problem, right? Like, I don't have no idea anything about computers, so if I'm working with something and I'm talking to Harry, and Harry's like, well, I know how to fix that problem. Well, that's great. Can we collaborate and make this happen, right? I mean, you're going to come up with some kind of creation and networking. I mean, you're going to need a network of people, literally, a network of people to be successful. And there's no time like the present to start building that network.
Definitely. I think with me, with networking, it's really good because it's really nice when you have like friends or you have classmates that they're going to be able to tell you like, hey, I know about this internship. Why don't you get involved in this? Like, I've done this. You know, I can kind of, you know, give you a step in the foot, like what to kind of expect from the program to see if that's something for you. And definitely, I think like when for example, with Build Poder, when I go to graduate school, it's nice that I already have resources with mentors that have gone to graduate school or students that are currently in graduate school. Like, how are they managing their time? How are they, you know, being able to do research and go to school at the same time? So I think having those networking is like the best thing possible. So I think it's really good to always start early, because I think a lot of students tend to just want to be like, oh, you know, I'll do that once I like get to my career, I'll start networking. Like, it's really good to start early, even at a community college, because there's so many programs and so many internships that like love community college students. So,
oh, we got to network. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? But I've never felt comfortable going up and talking to somebody I don't know. It's like, especially when there's a room full of all this stuff and I go to this event by myself and I don't know anybody. Usually that's why I choose to go with people I know, a group of people, and it's a lot easier to approach somebody, because now you're approaching a company or you're approaching somebody with like a team, and it's like, okay, I don't have to do this by myself. But it's a lot easier to network, and I don't even really consider it networking, but it is, with just the people around you in the room. I mean, in your class, your professors, clubs. There's so many clubs on campus that do projects, and it's a lot easier because everybody seems to be at the same mindset in the same place that you are, but everybody kind of knows something a little bit different. Maybe they know something a little more, and you know something a little more in another area. So together you can be like, oh, we can actually do this thing because I know how to do this and you know how to do that. And there's a lot of other things that when your club or when your organization participates in like a summit or a conference where multiple colleges show up, you see other clubs that are in the same situation. I was at one a few weeks ago, and I just became I don't know if you call it Instagram friends or following, whatever. You know, I am in contact with them on the Instagram, and I'll see a post just show up about something that they did with their club on that day. I'm like, oh wow, that's a really good idea, and then I'll bring that idea up to people that I work with. So even if you've never talked to them again, you see something and you're like, oh wow, that's, you know, we can incorporate that, and you have like this link with people that you've met, and then somewhere down the road, you can use that later down. And when I got to the internship that I was at, I didn't really feel like I networked with anybody, but they force you to actually go and talk to people that are working there full time, or people that have been hired as interns there. And you get to hear their experiences and what they did. And without even really being aware of it, just by showing interest and talking to people and kind of being zoned in the whole time I was there, they selected me as the MVP for my team, which is probably how they looked me up to call me back to come do the actual paid internship later down the road. So it was just by being active and kind of open to talking. I didn't really initiate anything per se, but I was sort of available and active and listening. And then when I did have a question, I would ask it or make sure that like I understood more than what I felt like I knew to begin with.
So yeah, definitely the people who are in your classroom are one of the best sources of networking. So my friends in my classroom encouraged me to apply to an internship, and I did. And in my cohort, I met a lot of students from other universities doing different research internships, and by the end of the cohort, I can come back to them and ask them, hey, I would really like to study at your USC lab. Can you ask your PI to let me shadow you? And that's your way into that lab or in other labs that you might come across through the people you meet in your classes. Another time, always just being at the lab is very important. If the professor sees you being at the lab all day, like every day, they know you're showing interest. And when I was doing my summer research internship at CSUN, professors from other countries were coming to visit to do their internships, to do their research at CSUN. And they always saw me at the lab, and they're like, oh, you seem very dedicated. If you ever want to come to Argentina, we can welcome you. So I got to connect with professors from different countries, which is very useful. I got their information, like I can email them, and it's very, like you never know who you're going to meet, just show up. So.
Yeah, I mean, like what my friend says, who's in UCLA right now, is that your network is your net worth. So when you meet people, you definitely want to get to know them and ask them about questions. So when I was in my research, I get to know a lot of postdocs, graduate students, undergrad students. So with that connection, that's going to be your treasure, because they will be able to help you to get into graduate school and how they did it and how they would connect you to the graduate school that they went to. So my mentor actually told me like she did her grad school in Germany in Max Planck, and she told me like, oh, if you're interested in doing a master's and doctoral at the same time, I could hit you up. You know, like wow, really? That's definitely that I could not imagine to people saying that, because they work hard for it, and people definitely want to help you to get into the places that you want, and you definitely want them to help you with that, but not just use them for some sort, but a mutual relationship that you need to connect with. Also, when I was studying at Starbucks all the time at 12:30 a.m. in the morning, honestly, I get to see students who are doing MCATs. So I'm always there, and he's always there. So I get the chance to talk to him, and I asked him like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm studying for MCAT." So I was thinking, "Oh, I kind of want to do some medicine too, because I want to do clinical research. So I was looking forward to doing an MD PhD, but not yet sure. You know, it's definitely a high bar over there. But once you get to know people, you wanted to ask them like, how was the process? How did you did it? What other resources you've got to? So you definitely want to connect to people. And also going back to my research, I made an appointment with a PI. You know, you would never imagine like how difficult it is to talk to PIs as big as with Nobel laureates. You know, but you get the chance to, when you're in your internship, you get a chance to be with people who are on the top of your field. So you definitely want to talk to them and get to know you, because they would help you, like Alejandra did. She might be able to go to Argentina, you know, get experience on a whole new level of internship or environment. So people will definitely try to hit you up with something sort of that would lead you to your goal. So you definitely need to get to know them. Yeah, that networking, again, is your network.
So, as Ted said, networking is your net worth. And I've approached this problem in a very unorthodox way. I was really interested in finding internships. This was like a year ago, I think. And I just didn't know where to start. I was completely lost. So what I did is, I'm like, okay, we have the internet, and it's a very powerful tool. So what I did is I went to Reddit, and I found a subreddit that was for computer science majors. And I also found a different subreddit for UC Berkeley, and for UCLA, and for USC. And in all these subreddits, I said, hey, I'm a computer science major, I want to transfer here. I lied to everyone, I didn't want to transfer any of those schools, but anyway. So I wrote that, and actually got a lot of helpful people responding to me. And they asked, hey, if you want, we can chat, and we did. We talked a lot, and they told me a lot of interesting stuff about like how to find internships, what to do, what to take, and it was very helpful. And I think even if you don't know that many people in person, and if you struggle with that, finding people online is very helpful. Especially recently, I discovered the role of LinkedIn, and it's also extremely helpful because on LinkedIn, you can actually type, like for example, a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to apply to this internship at Google. So what I did is I wrote the title of the internship, and I found all the people that had done it that summer. And I also added UCLA. So it's everyone who's in the vicinity area. So there's a chance of actually meeting up. And I did actually find someone who's had the spare time, and was willing to meet up. When we met up, he told me about the application process, told me a lot about computer science, about UCLA, and a lot of interesting stuff. And he actually helped me write my essays and freshen up my resume. So it was very, very helpful. So my advice would be, do stuff online. Try to find people online, especially with LinkedIn. Try to make a LinkedIn. I found it to be extremely helpful. There's a lot of friendly people online. There's a lot of unfriendly people too, but let's try to ignore that.
One great way to work that out is doing exactly what you're doing right now and ask questions. Let them do the talking. So if you go somewhere, prepare a set of questions. I think, like Ted had mentioned earlier about the interview process, you are going to have to get used to answering the questions, right? If you are going to go to an interview, you have to be prepared to ask questions. Sometimes they give you questions that you're not expecting. It's not like they give you a list of, these are the questions we're going to ask you, so you're prepared, right? So you kind of have to be prepared for anything. But always be prepared with your own questions. Those are really important. But even if you're just going somewhere like a fair or a place like this, is go prepared with questions. Like, what are the things that you want to know? Because just as much as you're interested in getting into a research program with them, just as much as you're applying for them, you're one out of 200 people, 300 people, you have no idea what that number is, but you are important as well. Your needs and what you want to get out of an internship is also very important. So what are the things that you want out of it? What are the things that are important to you? And be prepared to ask them questions. And if you maybe put the pressure on them, maybe you'll feel less pressure on yourself.
I think for me, because I tend to be kind of a pretty shy person, and I still struggle with that. Start maybe by talking. It's easy to talk to friends or something, but maybe talk to your classmates and start asking them questions, and then maybe start going to your professor's office hours. So that's, I think, a good way to start talking, because you're gonna be talking to somebody that's professional, that you're gonna be able to ask them questions. And even doing something like maybe a speech class, or even a group speech class or something, just to kind of get the ball rolling, to be okay, this is what I need to work on, or I need to work on making more eye contact, or I need to, be able to know what I'm going to say and be able to not just stutter or things like that. So I would recommend using a speech class or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of different tricks depending on the environment that you're in. If you're going to go to an event like a career fair or something where you want to talk to people, it's good to kind of pump yourself up, get yourself in your blood's pumping and you feel good about yourself. I think one thing they talked about last week was striking a Superman or a Wonder Woman pose for a second and holding it and taking your breath. And just make yourself feel powerful and energized and important, so that, because I feel like my shyness when I wouldn't talk to people for a long time, it would mostly be because I felt less than or insignificant, and I didn't want to waste their time with my stupid question or whatever it might be. So I think by first getting yourself in a positive mentality, that's going to help you feel comfortable asking the questions. And the longer you live in that positive mentality, the more normal that will feel, and eventually that will become the normal, and it will help you, have prolonged periods of social whatever. So that's one thing. And also I had to do some speech classes and public speaking where I stood up and spoke, and I got into entertaining and like being up in front of people and having to have everyone's eyes on you. That sort of helps like break that barrier. It's like, oh, I didn't die tonight, and I didn't die this night, and I didn't die this night. And eventually it's like, yeah, I'm probably not going to die if I stand up and talk to people. So eventually you just sort of get your brain used to it.
Yeah, I was like you 2 years ago. I didn't talk to nobody in my class. Like, I would only take classes with my friends, and then eventually I had to take a class by myself. And that was my biology class, and I actually met Jessica in that biology class. She came up to me, and she was nice to me, and we ended up being friends 2 years later. So just like probably initiating the conversation is also really good. Another tip would probably be like, tell your professor like, hey, like I'm not really good working in a lab, like I have to pair up with people. Like tell your professor maybe she would initiate the interaction to get you to socialize with other people. Because if it wasn't for Jessica and if it wasn't for my professor, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. Socializing is really important, so try to make like at least a couple friends every classroom, and like see where it goes there. You'll meet tons of people with tons of experiences every time.
Yeah, looking back 5 years ago when I first migrated here, I didn't know anybody, and that was really stressful because how I'm gonna go get through this college if I don't know anybody, and how I'm gonna do anything just by myself. So, you know, I just stand up there and ask people and ask my classmates, and I won't be, honestly, like Alejandra, I won't be here right now if it wasn't for Professor Shane, Professor Mendoza, and everybody in this room, because I wasn't able to, I was able to connect with them and help me to build up my confidence. You know, it's really important for just to be a happy person at the same time, or just go with the flow, I guess. Yeah. Well, I met them just because, all of them actually. It's wonderful because before getting in here, I couldn't see myself right now in my position because I was definitely a shy person as well, and I came from a different country. Like I don't know anybody. But with the resources that I was given and the confidence that I gained, I was able to be here. You know, it's definitely a challenge, but eventually you will have to come up with a strategy. And one way of the strategy I would recommend is, yeah, taking classes as well that you really have to speak in the front of the people, or else it's gonna blow your GPA up. But I'm not gonna say that you should or have to, but probably, you know, try to challenge yourself. Like, I need to talk to a person, any person today, just one person, and then eventually you have to build it up. How many people you have to talk to? Because in STEM, I know we're like hermit crabs, but we need to collaborate to each other. We need brains. We need one brain is not it. What you call that?
There's not two brains?
No, there's like I always when I was growing up, people would say 2 brains is better than 1. There you go. You know, it's always you want more collaboration towards one another so that you could come up with a better or greater idea. But yeah, it will come up eventually, definitely.
So there's been a lot of good advice that's already been given. What I would add is just fake it till you make it. Because something that, this might be a little bit discouraging, but try to take this as motivation to improve yourself, because when applying for internships, keep in mind that there's a lot of people applying, and usually they're usually competitive. So there's a lot of people that want internships, obviously. So for someone who's, in your case, well, I actually used to be antisocial myself too. I was a very anxious person. I didn't really get along that much. But for someone like that, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle, because that also handicaps you not just in terms of networking, but also during actual interviews itself. Think about it. If an interviewer is talking to someone and that person doesn't seem very active, even if they're not doing it intentionally, it won't come as a very positive thing on their side. So generally, I'd say try to fake it. Put yourself in situations that you feel uncomfortable, like here. Try to talk more, ask more questions. Eventually, you'll get there. Eventually, it'll be difficult, but it'll be a challenge. Something that Cassie reminded me that I should talk about also is the importance of reviewing your resume, making sure you have a good cover letter, and just generally having a plan when going into it. UCLA has a very good guide called the UCLA Career Guide. That's you guys can ask me about it. I have the link, I think, on my computer, and I'm pretty sure Cassidy also has it as well. And it has a lot of examples for resumes, a lot of examples for cover letters, and interviewers tend to pay a lot of attention to this. Because when someone is reviewing your resume, especially if it's like an online application, they're not going to read everything. They're just going to scan it for maybe 10 seconds tops and move on to the next one. So you want to know what you have on your resume, which is your first impression basically of them. They get your first impression from that one piece of paper. So you want to make sure that you know what you have on there, on your cover letter, and just generally have a general idea of what you need to do, especially in terms of tips during an actual career fair, like what you need to do, how you should approach them, and all the technicalities that come with it.
For those of you who had to participate in an interview, what's something that you did to prepare for your interview? Did you research their website and description? Did you prep a cover letter, resume? What are the things that you did to prepare once you actually made it through? And then also, was there an interview process? And if so, how did that go for you? Or what tips would you recommend to students who, make it through that first round, getting the resume in, but now they've got to prepare for an interview?
Great question. So I think one of the mistakes that students make is they don't research what the research program is researching. So you go in kind of blind, not understanding or knowing what that program is about. So I did my research on it, and for the most part, everything that I read kind of seemed like too good to be true. I was like, well, if this program is here, how are people not successful with it? I really thought about that, because you can't have 100% success rate in anything, right? So I wanted to know what it was about this program, or what it was about the students that would cause someone to fail. What would be one of the reasons why someone would not make it in this program? I was really shocked to find out that on the second day, there were 3 days that there were interviews. The interviews were really short, which was great. I don't get nervous easily, and my palms were sweating. I was like, I have no idea what they're going to ask me, but I arrived really early, and don't tell anyone, Amber. But I kind of overheard the questions that they were asking. So that was the benefit to showing up early, because I overheard 1 or 2 questions, and it was just enough for me to be like, okay, I can do this. I can answer these questions. One of them was a scenario, which those are always scary, like what are you supposed to say? Right? There's always a right thing to say and a wrong thing to say. But I was really shocked to find out that I was the last person on the second day out of 3 days, 15-minute interviews each, and I was the first person who walked in with questions. At the end of the interview process, they said, do you have any questions? I said, yes. May I? I took out my iPad. I had 8 questions. I only asked them 3. We only had 5 minutes. But I had questions, and as soon as I brought out my iPad, everyone kind of giggled. There were 3 people interviewing me, and I'm like, am I a nerd right now? Am I not, this is not cool? And they're like, no, it's just really interesting that you're the first person in the past 2 days that has asked questions. So guess what I did? I called Jessica, and I called someone else, everyone who was interviewing. I'm like, hey, you guys better go in there with a question. I didn't know Ted, I'm sorry. So I think going in there, being prepared with questions of how to be successful in their program is really important, and it really shows that you're interested in you're not just in it for yourself, you're in it for them as well.
Yeah, with Build Poder too, I was lucky enough to have Luis, and one of my friends that's currently in the program, he was like, let me interview you. I'm just going to ask you all these questions, and I'm going to be really serious. You can't laugh. You have to be really professional. And that really prepared me, and I was really thankful to have that, because I think I would have been a wreck. I don't know if I would have said the wrong thing or say something that I didn't mean, so it was really nice to have somebody, even if you can have a friend or like a parent be like, can you just interview me? Can you like, as like something, can you just ask me questions like, why do you want to do this program? Or what made you interested in this program to be like something beneficial? But I think also, like Sandy had mentioned, it's so important to ask questions. Like at the end, you know, I was like, well, you know, what made you guys interested in wanting to make this program for students? Like, you know, obviously it's hard work. It takes time out of them just teaching and being researchers. Like they're running this program. Why do you want to help people? So I think, like had Sandy mentioned, to ask questions and also just have, you know, maybe somebody interview you, even if it's not the exact questions, but just kind of get you like nervous, but like prepared.
I actually didn't have any interviews for my internship, but I treated the internship itself as a job interview because the way NASA works is you get your pinky toe in the door, and then based off of that, they judge and they say, okay, this person showed up, they did these things. And during this whole process, they actually gave us resume proofreading where we got to sit down and discuss our resume with our advisors. They sort of gave us like mock job interview type scenarios. So they sort of, but during that whole time, I treated it as they're judging me this whole time. Like however I respond, it's like they're already interviewing us, but they're taking the pressure off by saying it's a workshop. So I made sure that like my resume was already good when I showed up. I actually brought multiple sets of clothes. This was a one-week thing, and I had from just jeans and a polo shirt to like khakis, belt, and a nice dress shirt. And I just looked around at what everyone else was wearing, and I just wore something slightly better than them. It's like a half step up, just so I would be like slightly more professional. So if almost everybody was in jeans and a polo, I threw on the dress shirt button up. I rolled my sleeves up, made it work, and you know, nobody said anything, but I'm pretty sure that had some effect. And so I just treated every moment like I was in their eyes. And then it ended up paying off because they called me back to come back. But they have something called Pathways, which is basically almost a guaranteed way to get a job with NASA. You have to provide basically have to do 3 semesters of full-time internships, which means you're going to have to like miss a fall semester, do one over the summer somehow, but it's really difficult to even get selected for that. So just to have, you know, all these things on my resume now, that helps, and it's basically they're not interviewing necessarily right there in those 10 minutes, but they're working with you, they're seeing you, and that's almost an interview in and of itself.
Yeah, when I got selected for my internship, we didn't have an interview, but when I met with the professor, I always made it professional, like it was an interview. So whenever he would ask me questions, I just always looked like I was interested in everything, and everything he was in his field. So, do you like working with spiders? I hate spiders, but I said yes. Like, are you comfortable touching them? Like, of course. Like, so I had to touch black widows. And then, do you like lizards? Do you like holding them, feeding them? Like, of course. Like, I didn't know anything. So I just said, yes, I'll do everything you want. So, and I did. And then he was like, wow, like, if you go to CSUN, like, I will definitely take you on it in my lab. So that helps a lot. So.
Yes, that's true. Well, going back, actually I didn't have an interview as well, but if you put there, I got there also early, and they asked the person who left, like, oh, what did they ask? It's like, oh, it's like, if you got this situation where somebody steals your idea, and what you're gonna do, and I just researched it on while waiting for my interview. I guess my mistake is actually not doing the question or answering or anything about questions, because it's like, oh, again, I'm good, I know what the program is, but no, you gotta research, you gotta see their mission, their values, their core, you gotta see, you have to show them that you are really interested in that program, and definitely helps you a lot to get into that program, because they see you as, okay, this is a student who is committed for doing the whole program, and we would like to have him or her to be in our program, because he's an asset, or she's an asset too. So definitely look into those research on them first. And Amber here asked her about questions like, oh, what are they gonna ask? Like, just a regular interview. You just have to be comfortable. You're just like talking to someone very comfortable, but professional. You don't have to want to say silly words, But also dress appropriately because first impression lasts, definitely. So you want them to see how as a person you are, and how you talk to people or approach people. So because networking again is really important. And yeah, it's in the essay for the TTERU. That's what makes the interview is. You gotta write the right answers to the questions they ask. If they ask like, what is the struggle that you that you have overcome? You don't want to write whole about the struggle and you didn't say how you have achieved it or how you overcome it. You want to balance it out. Okay, this is my problem and this is how I overcome it. You want to have that good balance, not more than of that side or more of that side, but a good balance of it because they want to know who you are because they don't have time for interviews if the application has like more than 100 students. They don't want them to have that burden on them. So the essay is your interview. So you gotta write it carefully. Or like from the UC's essay, there's really good examples in there. And actually every application is pretty much the same. Like what problems have you overcome and how do you overcome it? Or what are you interested in? Like how in the first essay of the UC, they ask like, how did you? What did this essay?
I don't remember.
Oh, I remember. It's like, how did you prepare for your major? So you don't want to list your classes. They know your classes. You want to tell them, oh, I did this internship or I volunteered. They want to get the sense of how passionate or how interested you are in your major. So you gotta answer that question. So yeah. So I could think of right now.
So a lot of good stuff has already been said, so I'll go into more specific tips for computer science. So luckily for us, we don't have to dress up for our interviews because most of them are by phone or by Skype or something where they'll see nothing lower than this. So you can basically do it like in your boxes or something. So for computer science, actually, we kind of have it cut out for us because most major companies like Google, well, that's the only one that I've actually researched, actually have a very good, I wouldn't say book, but like a pamphlet that tells you pretty much everything that they could possibly ask in an interview. And it's not just related for internships, just full-time positions as well. So if you go through that pamphlet and you at least know like the bare minimum required for each topic, like say, okay, you need to know this much from data structures, this much from like hardware stuff, this much from software development itself. If you can actually go through it and like generally understand what is expected of you, you'll do really well on during interviews.